I used to get money for girls after they would run through and run trains on them. And they would give me a certain amount of money, and I had to make deals with them to not go to the police and to sign non-disclosure agreements.
And we're back with a shocking audio clip of Jaguar Wright that's resurfaced, where Jag is fully admitting to having once been part of what she calls a crew, where she managed the payments to women and girls in exchange for their signature on an NDA after what even she herself referred to as violently forced group activities. Jaguar showed up at the courthouse where the Dr. Diddy trial is being held and spoke to the media about why she was there and what she represents. Take note that she mentions lawsuits that have been filed against her. Then we'll go over some of those suits, before circling back to Jaguar's shocking resurfaced audio confessional.
Jaguar Wright.
Jaguar, can I just ask, is this day overdue?
Of course it is. And we're just getting started. I do believe there's going to be a lot of curveballs. I do believe there's going to be a lot of interesting things. And what I will say is, be vigilant. We're getting started.
Is this a reckoning for the music industry?
Oh, it needs to be. And if it wasn't, I hope my presence starts that.
Thank you so much, Hope.
Yes.
Okay, check it for dramatization. So what are we going to expect today? What's going to be, which witnesses do you think going to be today?
I hope Cassie gets to go first. She's pregnant, and there's got to be a lot of stress around this for her. So I hope they get her out of here first. And then, so begins the dominoes.
And what will this case mean for the music industry? Will this be like the downfall for it?
Well, I hope it's the end of an era that has brought nothing but pain. At the end of the day, music should be cruelty-free. That's my company. That's what I stand for. Cruelty-free artistry.
Oh, really? Isn't this you, though, Jag? You're all about cruelty-free artistry, and yet...
The first time I seen a girl take $200 after 15 dudes had ran through her after they drugged her, and she had no idea. She didn't even know that she screamed most of the time. That's how insanely drunk and intoxicated and drugged she was. She didn't even realize she had been. All she kept saying is, "Do you know where I can get a hot cup of tea? My throat is so hoarse." And she took the $200 and signed a non-disclosure agreement for that kind of abuse.
Plus that Diddy lawsuit you've been named in. We'll let her finish what she has to say here, do a run-through about the lawsuits she's about to mention, then I'll play you this full audio. Need a little bit more context, so you can better understand how sick it is she showed up to the courthouse acting like some kind of victim's advocate.
The one thing that I hate most about this case is that a lot of the records that people love were born of silent and secret pain that was covered up by corruption and money, and that needs to end.
Like the time you were in charge of paying a girl $200 to stay quiet after she'd been drugged and brutalized?
And do you, what kind of witnesses, what kind of celebrities do you think we're going to see here as witnesses?
Expect everyone that you didn't think would be there. That's what I will say. A lot of people keep betting on a lot of things. This is a federal case. They are taking this very seriously. Just...
Who should be nervous? I mean, like...
Everyone. Everyone should be nervous. Yeah. Everyone.
Like, Usher, Ashton Kutcher, give me some names. Who do you think?
For legal reasons, I can't say. I keep ending up in lawsuits for things that I didn't do. So, I'll have to plead on that one. I'm just going to say, if I'm here, I ain't here for nothing.
So do you think the whole music industry is going to be, like, how big is this case?
Look at who's looking for houses out of the country. Start there.
Okay, start. All right, that was good. Thank you so much.
And just for our record, spell your first and last name for me.
Jaguarwright.
Thank you so much.
Laban mo sa pinag-expand ko yan.
Yeah.
NBC. Oh, I'm sorry. Who's first?
NBC.
How we doing?
Hello.
What's happening today?
Everything. That's what's happening.
Everything the house.
Looking at some what?
How you doing, man? Oh, hello.
I see you.
Now let's take a closer look at these lawsuits she speaks of, that she claims are for things that I didn't do, which I'm not necessarily saying she's guilty unless decided by the court of law, but very interesting for her name to be mentioned in a Diddy lawsuit if she was entirely innocent. Defendants Valdez and Gonzalez instructed plaintiffs to sign paperwork at gunpoint. When plaintiffs refused, Defendant Gonzalez would pistol whip plaintiffs on the back of their heads. Defendant Gonzalez eventually gave plaintiffs a drink, which caused them to pass out. Plaintiffs spent the night at the hotel with defendants Gonzalez and Valdez, taking turns watching them. The next morning, plaintiffs were restrained and bound by their hands in front and were placed into a vehicle. Plaintiffs then saw defendants Jaguar and Helena. Upon information and belief, defendants Jaguar and Helena were in a small sedan, light color, white or beige. Plaintiffs were then transported to the location of Plaintiff Parham 9's brutal assault on Loma Vista Drive by defendants Jaguar and Helena. Defendant Helena was the driver, and defendant Jaguar was the passenger. Defendant Helena warned plaintiffs if they tried to escape or run, that she would have to shoot you. Defendant Helena also warned plaintiffs not to throw up her vehicle, saying you better not throw up in my car or get sick. Defendant Helena mentioned having two partners as backup who were bounty hunters. Plaintiffs attempted to make conversation with defendant Helena, in which she admitted she was the same person who plaintiffs had met with previously. Defendant Jaguar, aggravated, stated, "You let them know who you are? That's really great." Plaintiffs noticed defendants had large brown bags and manila envelopes full of cash that was banded. It appeared they were separating the large sums of cash to distribute as they were placing cash into the manila envelopes. Defendant Jaguar discussed with defendant Helena how the parties started the first black-owned network. Upon information and belief, plaintiffs believed that network to be Revolt TV. Defendant Jaguar and defendant Helena discussed the other co-conspirators, but referred to them by their middle names: Natasha, defendant KK, Pedro, defendant Gonzalez, Lyra, defendant Valdez, Cornelius, defendant Odell, and Larry, shortened for Lawrence, defendant Pelletier. When defendant Jaguar said Cornelius, it upset defendant Helena, who said that defendants Odell and Drusky were her clients, and nothing better happened to them, and plaintiffs better not say anything about them, or she would have plaintiffs killed. Defendant Jaguar then told plaintiffs they were being taken to meet John. Plaintiffs now know that was referring to defendant Diddy. Plaintiffs observed several individuals gathered around a bed, while defendants Gonzalez and Valdez stood outer guard. Plaintiffs observed defendants Jaguar and Helena enter the residence. Defendant Jaguar told plaintiffs, "He wants something you have. If I were you, I'd figure out what it is really fast." The he defendant was referring to is believed to be defendant Diddy. Shortly after, defendant Drusky appeared wearing a vest and shorts, and he engaged in conversation with plaintiffs. Plaintiffs tried to appeal to defendant by talking about the music industry, and defendant instructed plaintiffs that they should cooperate. Plaintiffs observed defendant Shane place a pillow over plaintiff Parham's face, suffocating her, and plaintiff Jane Doe yelled for them to stop, or that she would die. Plaintiff Jane Doe believes plaintiff Parham did lose consciousness because she became limp and unresponsive. Defendant Diddy instructed defendant Valdez to shut her up, and defendant Valdez hit plaintiff Jane Doe with the handle of his firearm. Plaintiff John Doe witnessed plaintiff Parham being assaulted by the remote, and when he tried to say something, plaintiff was told to shut up, or they would put the remote in him next. Plaintiff John Doe believes he heard defendant Jaguar make remarks, "Put that remote in her, Zrania, she's going to learn today," and telling plaintiff Parham that she was going to make it worse. Plaintiffs believe the remote assault was to punish plaintiff Parham for the IUD failure. Alright, now let's listen to the full resurfaced audio clip of Jag regaling her pimpin' past.
I used to get money for girls after they would run through and run trains on them. And they would give me a certain amount of money, and I had to make deals with them to not go to the police and to sign non-disclosure agreements.
Oh my God.
I got a stack of NDAs at the top of every week and $5,000 in cash. And this is back in the 90s. $5,000 was a little bit of money, but it wasn't a lot of money. I got a stack of NDAs and $5,000. And they told me whatever I didn't pay out, I could keep. The first time I seen a girl take $200 after 15 dudes had ran through her after they drugged her, and she had no idea. She didn't even know that she screamed most of the time. That's how insanely drunk and intoxicated and drugged she was. She didn't even realize she had been. All she kept saying is, "Do you know where I can get a hot cup of tea? My throat is so hoarse." And she took the $200 and signed a non-disclosure agreement for that kind of abuse. Now, when I quit, it was when the white girl came to me to negotiate. And I said, how about we start with $500? She said, how about I know they give you at least $5,000 for this? Tell them they're going to have to come to the table with more money if they want me to sign off on this paper. The white girl, turned out she was pre-law. She was in college studying pre-law. She knew all about it. And she walked away with $25,000 that night. And guess what? Of all of the women that I paid off while I worked for this particular crew, she got the most money. And it was the black girls that accepted the least amount of money. I actually ran out of cash one time, and I couldn't find anybody with petty cash to go get more money to pay off more girls. And those girls accepted backstage passes at the next concert instead.
Oh my God.
After being viciously raped for 7 hours with 12 men.
I can't say for sure who the women or girls she was confessing about having paid for and coerced into signing NDAs, but Ashley Parham, who filed that lawsuit against Diddy, which named Jaguar and other co-conspirators in an awfully similar situation, has spoken out publicly about this barbaric violation against her.
Ashley Parham is here to fill in some blanks. As a recap, she says the gang rape happened at the home of a mutual acquaintance in the Bay Area back in 2018. She says that Sean Combs singled her out because she publicly disrespected him in a FaceTime call and accused him of orchestrating the murder of Tupac Shakur. She says that Combs and 3 other men raped her, the other men acting on Diddy's orders. She also claims that members of Combs' entourage stood by, even helped out in the assault. Afterward, she says everybody simply hung around drinking and smoking as though nothing had happened. Months after putting her name on a highly explicit, exhaustively detailed court filing, Ashley Parham has decided to go on national television and answer questions about it. She asked us if we could conceal her face, and we agreed. She also wanted to be joined by her attorney, Ariel Mitchell. Here's our conversation. Ashley and Ariel, thank you very much for doing this. I know this is extremely sensitive. I'll ask the questions best I can, and I'll challenge the best I can, understanding that this is delicate information. With that in mind, Ashley, can you tell me how you first even came into contact and came to know Sean Combs?
I met a man named Shane Pierce at the bar, and outside of the bar, he had Sean Combs on a FaceTime phone call, and he overheard me saying I wasn't impressed by him and wasn't a fan, and that I thought he killed Tupac. And
do you believe that that's what started all of this, that perhaps Sean Combs had a grudge, just hearing that you believed he was Tupac's killer?
Yeah, I think that's what started it, because that's when he threatened me, that he was gonna come after me. And he threatened he was gonna eat my face, so I didn't take him seriously. I just thought he was a bizarre human being.
At what point did you come into actual physical contact? Did you see him face to face for the first time? What were the circumstances?
It was when Shane Pierce had called me and he claimed he wasn't feeling well from his cancer treatment and he needed help opening his medication. So I went over there to help him out, and it turned out he was just fine and he didn't need my help. It was weird. He wanted to show me his new car, and he took me on a short drive around the Renda Hills, and then we got back to his little bachelor pad in the house, and he offered me a glass of water, and I drank it, and I started to feel a little bit off. And then I heard a bunch of people coming down the stairs, and it was Sean Combs and a whole bunch of people who just busted in the door. He said something like, "Bet you didn't think you were ever going to see me." And I was just in complete shock and frozen. He had Christina Coram. He ordered her to insert a copper IUD, but luckily it deployed before she could actually get it inside me, like inside the cervix. And that's when Sean Combs got extremely angry and he grabbed the TV remote and sexually assaulted me. The knife that Sean Combs had put against my face earlier, where he wanted to cut my face, and Christina Coram told him that it wouldn't be good for human trafficking me, that clients wouldn't like it. I found that knife because they had left it in there. So I tried to hide it on my left side underneath partially of the t-shirt. And I stepped outside, and that's right where the bodyguard with a gun was, and they told me to sit down. So I sat down on this makeshift bench out of buckets and a plywood. I just had to sit there and just kind of listen to Sean Combs brag about what he did to me and that he's gotten away with more serious crimes and no one would believe me. And he mentioned Tupac and...
To be clear, this is outside now. This is in the backyard. You have now moved out towards the backyard where they are all sitting outside?
Yeah, they were all in the backyard, sitting outside, just having fun with each other, like, and they were smoking and drinking, like it was just a normal day for them.
So what happened after that?
I was sitting there on the bench and I wasn't allowed to leave. At one point, Sean Combs threw a fanny pack at me that was full of drugs, and I got angry and I threw the drugs, the fanny pack, into the bush. And that's when the bodyguard told me that I had messed up and to go get it. And Sean quickly said, "No, she needs to stay there. Someone else go get it." So I couldn't get up from the seat. Christina Coram and a bunch of people were just hanging out and smoking and chatting and having fun. Sean Combs turns to me and he says, "Why haven't we ever partied like this before?" And that's when I got enraged and I said, "This is not a party. You raped me." He attempted to bribe me with some amount of money, and I said, no, you raped me. I'm not going to stay silent on this.
And I just want to go back to that one detail. Sean Combs said to you that he killed Tupac or that he had Tupac killed. Which one was it?
He paid to have Tupac killed.
That's what he said in that moment in the backyard, that he had paid to have Tupac killed.
Yes, and he was bragging about it.
And Ariel, I'll ask you to step in here. Is there a police report from that night, from the Contra Costa police, to indicate that they had responded to this gun complaint and obviously what Ashley says was a rape complaint as well?
The Contra Costa sheriff did admit that there was a complaint on March 23rd, 2018, but they claimed they investigated and it was unfounded. So all of the women who have reported alleged sexual assaults to the Contra Costa police have all had their claims investigated and unfounded. I spoke to Ashley's therapist, who informed me that she has treated several, countless women throughout the county who all reported their crimes and the sexual batteries against them to the Contra Costa sheriff, and all of them were found to be unsubstantiated. I actually have spoken to 2 individuals, one of whom is a rape victim of Shane Pierce, who was raped by Shane Pierce 6 years before this incident happened to Ashley. She reported the crime to the police in Contra Costa, and they also unsubstantiated her claim.
It wasn't just the Contra Costa County sheriffs that Ashley made a report to. She also reported this to the Walnut Creek Police and to the Orinda County, or the Orinda Police Department. Ariel, was there any response from those police departments?
So Orinda and Walnut Creek are city police departments, all under the umbrella of Contra Costa County. So I did reach out to them, and they directed me to go through Contra Costa County, and anybody from myself on down who have made public records requests to the county for these reports and these records have all been denied. They refuse to give us any public records that we are entitled to in relation to all of the times Ashley reported this crime to these 3 different police departments.
She further says she was given enough drugs to kill a horse on the night of the alleged attack. I asked her about that. Do you think that the water that you'd been offered prior to them arriving was drugged, and did you feel as though you were under any kind of influence at this point of the alleged gang attack?
Talk about the oil too.
Yeah, I did feel a little bit off from the water, but before they raped me, Sean Combs pulled out a bottle of what turned out to be oil, and he doused my whole body in it to the point my hands were dripping, and I couldn't push anybody away from me. And then I just slowly, like, my body started to not function properly, and I wasn't able to fight back or do anything.
After 15 dudes had ran through her after they drugged her, and she had no idea. She didn't even know that she screamed most of the time. That's how insanely drunk and intoxicated and drugged she was. She didn't even realize she had been. All she kept saying is, "Do you know where I can get a hot cup of tea? My throat is so hoarse."
And then in the affidavit, you mentioned that as the alleged gang rape is ending, Sean Combs takes a pill out of a bag and he puts it in your mouth. Do you know what it was and what effect did it have?
It was a white circular pill. I don't know what it was, but I'm assuming it was like Plan B or something, because the copper IUD didn't work.
Did it have any kind of drugging effect on you? Did you feel as though you became even more incapacitated afterwards, or did it have no effect on you?
I was pretty incapacitated, so it didn't feel like it did anything more to me.
Did that party all eventually leave the room and leave you in that state, or what happened after the gang rape ended?
Christina Coram came over. I was hanging halfway off the bed, just kind of lifeless. And she came over to check on if I was still alive and breathing and stuff. And she had a bag that had IVs and little medical bottles that I don't know what would be in them. I do remember that they did put an IV in me, but they didn't have a stand. And they put it on top of the table near where Sean had been sitting. And I remember that I grabbed at it and it fell to the floor, and the bodyguard was still in the room, and he put it back on the table saying it wouldn't work if it was on the floor.
When you went to the hospital, was it immediately after the incident, or was it several days later? And if later, were they able to do a rape kit that has some integrity to it due to the proximity to the incidents themselves?
It was later.
A couple of weeks later, right?
A couple of weeks later, unfortunately. I didn't have the guts to go earlier, and I regret that.
Talk about when you contacted your personal physician for the testing.
Oh, yeah.
STD testing.
I contacted my primary care physician, and I told her that I had been raped, and she gave me all the STD tests and the HIV tests that all luckily came back negative.
Understanding that the hospital report is in depth and lengthy, is there anything that you have in the hospital report that can prove or disprove Ashley's claims about what happened that night?
It proves that she went to the hospital and that she reported a rape and that they did a rape kit. And of course, unfortunately, due to the delay, there was not much that was or could have been found.
I should also mention this other lawsuit she's embroiled in. A man named Brian McKnight filed a defamation suit for false claims Jaguar had been spreading online about him, saying that he was abusive towards his ex-wife and the prostitutes he'd cheated on her with. Strange that none of these victims and witnesses have had any lawsuits of any kind filed against them. But Jag, a self-proclaimed victims advocate, has not only been accused of partaking in human trade and freak-off events, but for spreading lies online. Which is all the more interesting, since Jag had attempted to go head-to-head with Allie Carter, accusing her of lying, and was caught in other resurfaced clips, taking credit for the lies being spread about Allie, and spoke about how joyful she was about assassinating her character. Oddly enough, Allie hasn't had any lawsuits filed against her, defamation or otherwise, and she's called out many major celebrity names. For someone who claims to be an advocate for victims, Jag has done the most to try and silence Allie and other alleged victims, including those who were allegedly victimized as children.
You know, when I realized that they were going to start going heavier at inventing storylines and narratives, I decided to create one of my own. You know, if we gonna play make-believe, baby, don't let me miss out on the fun. Let me go in my StreamYard and check the date on this very special secret live. I'm a doozy. You know, Maggie, I'm not a little bit mean. I'm a lot mean. I really am. I enjoy it. I do. I take pleasure in my Barbary. When I'm coming to bust somebody in the head, I want them to know I done it. You know, that's just the way I am.
Yep.
Oh, yes. What's today's date? The 14th. The 14th? This live was recorded January 3rd. So what's that now, babe? 11 days? Too Strong said when they stopped by after New Year's, what was that, the 1st or the 2nd? They said in 2 weeks. And they ended up moving a little sooner than they were going to because everyone started jumping on the Allie Carter story and started trying to control the narrative here.
Yeah.
On YouTube. And we all know that Corey Fair came through and announced on the Jaguar Wright Effect that they would be unveiling some truths. And then the next thing you know, Allie Carter here, Allie Carter there, here Allie, there Allie, everywhere Allie, Allie. Oh my goodness. People that weren't even discussing her jumped on it.
Even Alexis K. Tyler or something.
Alexis K. Tyler, everyone's talking about why.
That's so cute.
Yeah. So anyway, back to this special live. I'm calling it the turducken receipt. Because see, what's becoming very clear is that there were things that were discussed in this secret live with me and Grace. I'm having such a hard time guarding my mouth because I'm really proud of myself. I love it when I run a clean op and nobody knows, you know? It lets me know I still got it. You know, the espionage is strong with me. But I wanted to try out my own little storyline. And I wanted to see what it would do. See, the beautiful thing about my ops is they run in the backdrop before they come to the foreground. And usually it's me and the trolls racing to see who gets to hit first or hardest. But this, it's Inception. You know, when you put an idea together and then you put it out there into the world and you focus on it and you guide it to fruition. The Allie Carter story, it was going to crash eventually. There was no way they was going to be able to keep all up. It's sad that it took someone like me to just nuzzle in on the fact that if she took her exposure seriously, why would she be dishonest about Tupac being her father? The simple fact that it took someone like me to get people talking about these things is kind of disturbing because this girl's been running her mouth like this for half a decade.
Let's not forget there are numerous lawsuits filed against Diddy and associates by those who were children when they were allegedly victimized. Let's stand up for them, and for those speaking out for their protection and defense. I'll be continuing my crusade for the common denominators of truth, so make sure to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll catch you on the flip side.